Hello everyone. This is about take 7. I've had a technical issue, so let's hope that this works. I've changed to my mobile phone. It's a little bit different, but welcome. So welcome to Blind and Knitting. I'm Donna, and this is my little corner of the world where I like to talk about all of my whips and FOs and projects, etc. With you. I really love doing it, and I thank you for all of the comments. That I get some lovely comments and feedback, and yeah, I love it. If you subscribe, you can push the subscribe button down below. I'm not very good with keeping my Instagram and Ravelry up to date, and I should get better at that. I'd like to, but I should get better at that. So welcome to Blind and Knitting. So this is 25th of April. It's Anzac Day. I do hope you're having a lovely long weekend in Australia and New Zealand, but also, for the true meaning of it all, having some true remembrance of our men that served in the war. My dad served in the war, and there's quite an interesting story about a secret project that he was involved in. I won't tell you today, I'll tell you in another time, but it's an interesting story. But very proud to say that my daughter and my grandson went to Anzac Parade. It's a big ask for an 8-year-old to get up really early in the freezing cold and go to parade, but he wants to do it. And but he's actually gone to 2 parades. So he went to the first one in town, and then the second one he has gone to in Tenui. McDonald's for breakfast in between, which I suppose is a bonus. I did say to him that I think he is old enough now, he's 8, to wear my dad's medals next year and my dad's military hat. So that would be his great granddad, which, I'd be really proud if he did. So let's see how we go. Been great. So I've got my knitting. Let's start again. Here is my Embers, which is a Libby Johnson pattern made from Skeins wool, which is a New Zealand company up in Napier. It's an 8-ply. It's a toothy because you need it for colour work, but it's a soft. It's also very soft and thick, so it's going to be a lovely warm winter one. And I've talked about this before, this is the one where I stick it. So where I am now is I'm at the sleeve. So I'm on Sleeve Island, basically. So I've just got the sleeves to do and then steeking. I have never steeked, so that's going to be a real learning thing. But I'm loving the colours. I think they're going to look really great. So that's where that's at. You can see I've done quite a bit. I've finished the length. I wanted it nice and long. I mean, I'm 6 foot, and I don't want anything that's, up my back and that. So it is quite long. It's a lot of knitting. And I've got it really long arms. So, when I'm on Sleeve Island, it's a long island. Anyway, that's my Embers, Libby Johnson's pattern. It's from Wardrobe Toolbox, so it's not out yet, but it will come out. So how Libby works, and I've explained this on other podcasts, is that she introduces a pattern to people that are on Wardrobe Toolbox, which is a tutorial education platform that we pay for, that she does videos and things. So when you're learning a new skill like that, it's great because she actually talks about that pattern, and it's her pattern, and she does questions and answers sessions and all sorts of learning. So it's really good. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So I not sponsored by Libby or anybody, this is purely just me really enjoying Libby's patterns. I now know how they fit, etc. So in saying that, my other knit that I'm doing as well is also a Libby Johnson pattern. I promise I'll make some variety later. So this is called the Sersha, and again, this is in Wardrobe Toolbox. It's not out yet, and it's not a finished object, but it's the same as my Ember. It is. I've done the length and I've finished it off at the bottom. Again, I want it quite long because I can't stand short. I have finished one sleeve, so I'm doing a 3/4 sleeve. So it's just under the elbow there, where it's, it'll be quite nice. It's a really lovely pattern. It's got a little lace, sort of cable kind of lace panel right down the sleeves. It's very simple. The wool actually is what makes it a stunner. The wool it's from Happy Go Knitty. It's an indie dyer, a local indie dyer, Helene, and it's 4-ply, and it is merino silk yak. It's just the most, it's so nice to knit. It's so soft. So it's going to hang beautifully. I'm a bit worried that the neck might be a bit big. So I'll see when I pick the stitches up. It is supposed to be a reasonably sized neckline. So we'll see. So you can see that I'm on Sleeve Island again with that. I finished one sleeve. I'm on to the second one. Not that far to go, really, to be honest. So I've just got to finish that second sleeve and pick up and do a little, it's just a little curled neckline. So there's not too much to go, which will be nice wearing in autumn. I want to get this one finished before my embers, because that's, I think I'll wear that a lot in the real winter. Whereas with this one, it will be lovely to wear in autumn when it's cold but not freezing. And New Zealand, we're lucky. New Zealand's a beautiful place to live, and our weather, we don't get excuse me, really, really cold. It gets cold, but it doesn't get really, really cold. Depends on the person. So those are my two works in progress at the moment, and they've been keeping me quite busy. I have wanted to cast on itis, and I just want to start. But I was really scared that because I had two whips and both on Sleeve Island, that if I started something else, I wouldn't finish these two. It's not something I normally do. I don't sort of have any not finished whips. I usually can't wait to get them finished, and I do feel like that with it. But I was really worried that there were two quite big projects with a lot of knitting in them, one 4-ply and a lot of knitting, one DK but a lot of length, that I would just end up sitting there and not finishing them. And I didn't want that. I didn't want to get my, I want to finish these. I'm looking forward to wearing them. But I have got my next cast on planned and ready, and it is a different pattern than, it's not one of Libby's. It is, and you will have, if you watch podcasts and into knitting, it's called the ranunculus. And I tossed up to whether to do the love note or the ranunculus, because it sounds to me like they're both very similar in some ways. So it is, and I haven't brought the pattern to show you. I promise I'll put a link on, but I'm sure that just about everybody that knits knows what a ranunculus is. So this is going to be my next cast on. And I think what I'll do is I will finish the Sesha, my 4-ply one, get that finished, and cast this on while I'm still doing Sleeve Island on my embers, so that they're rolling nicely. So anyway, so ranunculus, I've watched hundreds and hundreds of podcasts and on Love Note and ranunculus. I've never seen a ranunculus live. I've only seen them on podcasts, but I have seen a Love Note, and it was lovely, I admit. They're both top down with a yoke with a lace panel and the lace piece in the yoke, and they're a little bit boxy, and more so the Love Note tends to be more very short, and I won't wear them that length. They're just not pretty on me at all. I will make it longer to a full length. I won't do the what's it called, the boxy one. But yeah, ranunculus one out. I was watching a podcast the other day, and it was the lovely lady from Finland, and she was saying she was starting her third ranunculus, and she said that they're just a winner. So I thought, right, well, there's my answer to it. So I will link below the pattern for the ranunculus, but I've done a swatch. Now, if anybody that watches me remembers, I did about the same time I knit this Bentley, I did a top down yoked 4-ply called Raindrops, and I had made a muck up with the wool. I had bought double the amount I needed. No wonder it was expensive. And I just loved it. And I thought, well, I could take it back to the shop, but I really don't want to because I love it so much. But I wanted to make it look different. So I thought, right, just sit on it and something will happen. Well, when I was in Wellington at the doctor's, at the hospital, I had time to go to Spotlight, which again, we've been in lockdown and I've had COVID and surgery, etc. So I haven't really had time to do any of that. And I found this. Now, I know it's an acrylic, but it's a really pretty sort of champagne coloured acrylic. It's not mohair, it's called FOMO. So it's a fear of missing out, FOMO. It's a take on words, obviously. So it's not mohair, it's a FOMO, which is acrylic, but it's lovely and soft. And I bought it. I thought, $2.98 a skein at Warehouse. It's not 50 grams, so it's only 30 grams, but cheap as chips. And I thought, when I got home, I thought, they don't really go together, but I'll give it a try and see what happens, because sometimes, well, I've never held two yarns together. So this will be a first. So I thought, well, I'll do a swatch and see what it looks like. So I did, and I loved it. Look at that. So this is a combination of the pink speckled one and the acrylic. The pink one is a 4-ply merino that I brought in a local wool store in town, the embroidery shop, and it is, I'm trying to think what it's back in my last, quite a few podcasts ago, I'm trying to think what it's called, but it is 100% merino. But the combination of the two is just gorgeous. It makes this really pretty sort of pink champagne colour with very subtle little purple and gold flecks. So super excited. So that's my ranunculus. That's going to be my ranunculus. I'm really looking forward to that. I've never held two yarns together, and I always say, that I'm on this sort of learning journey of things that are so much different to how they were when I was knitting. Oh, I'm keeping this on. Also, my sister-in-law gave me Easter eggs for Christmas in an Easter bag, so I'm going to keep it. I'm going to use it as a knitting bag now that I've eaten all the Easter eggs. So it's really cute. So that's just going to live in there. I could do with a couple more. Couldn't you always do with a couple more of this, a couple more of that? Yes, so where was I? Ranunculus. So that's in my queue, and I'm going to cast that on. I'm going to really try and thump out the C-sharp and get it finished in the next few days, or this week, really. So it's Monday, it's a stat holiday, it's a short week, so I may well have it finished by the end of the week, which would be grand, and then I can cast on my ranunculus. I've thought about doing all sorts of other little things as well. I wanted to do some socks and that, but I've kind of, because I've had so many health issues and that, I've kind of simplified it down. Normally I can cope with 3 or 4. Oh, something just hit me in there. Awful, one of those horrible flies. Normally I have 4 or 5 projects going at a time, but I just haven't had the headspace or the health to be able to do it. So I've simplified it down to just two projects, both both at the simple stage, which was really silly. I started them at the same time. I tend to try and have one where the complicated bit is going while I'm knitting the simple, quick, fast bit of the other one. I didn't do that with this. I started with the yolks, started with the ferrule and the other one, which was so here's the learning again. I'd never done this neckline that my C-sharp is, wherever it is. Here it is. So it's top down, but it's short rows. So you start, there's the neckline. So you start by casting on the back, and then, casting on the back, and then you do short rows, and then you do short rows till you come around and then join it to the front, and then you start knitting top down. So I've never done that before, so that was a real learning thing for me. So the embers, the learning was I've never done colour work, and I've never done steekings, so that was the learning on that. As I've said early in this podcasts, I really want to up my skills, there's a lot more modern things now, short rows, etc, etc, etc. So I try and get something that I can learn each time. So there's two quite different learnings on that. And the ranunculus, well, it'll be holding two together. I've never held two yarns together. I hope with my site I can manage that. The swatch was quite easy. They stuck together, which I thought, well, that's good. That makes it, excuse me, I'll just get myself back into order. That makes it a little more reassuring that I can do that. Because as you know, I'm legally blind, so I have to be really careful. Now, the sesha has been quite dark, so I've had to choose times when I've knitted on each of them. So if the lighting's not great, I go for the ember, which is quite bright. It's a nice crisp colour, and if the lighting is really good, I'll go for my sesha. I really have to try and work those things out with my site and how to manage those at the time. So yeah, that's my knitting. Where's my notebook? Here we go. Where are we up to? Yeah, ranunculus in the queue. Purchases. Well, I've done so many purchases recently that I thought, no, I better tie-ho for a while and build my money up. I like to, I've discovered that as much as I don't have a problem with cheaper wool and acrylics and reasonably priced wool, I do love the quality, especially indie dye wools. So it'd be quite. So now what I'm doing is kind of putting a bit of money aside each week to keep up my habit, and I'm more of a. I've bought, with the shifting of the bedrooms, I've bought one of those, and you see them in a lot of podcasts, those bookcases that have the sort of 8 or 12 cubicles on them, and a lot of people have them behind them filled with wool. So I've brought myself one of those, again, FOMO, can't not have one. But it just seemed the logical thing for putting all my wool and my crafts in. So I'm waiting for that to come. So all of my wool and crafts and stuff is all in plastic. What I've been keeping them in is when you buy a duvet cover or something and you zip it up, and it comes in those hard plastic little suitcase type things, but they're clear. So I've been keeping it in there and keeping it nice and clean. So when I get my bookcase, I'll be able to store things much, much better. The only other purchase that I've done is I have brought three 2-inch Knit Pro needles, so interchangeable, so for the sleeves. So I bought a 3.25, a 3.75, and four, 350, 375 and a 4, all in the 2-inch interchangeables, so that I can do sleeves on little. And it's so much easier. I did my last few cardigans on Magic Loop, and that's fine. I didn't have too much of a problem, but this, I want to get through these. It's so easy, just knitting round and round and round. Once you get used to the feel of something small, though, and one of the things that I've learnt the hard way is I will now knit my sleeves first before I knit my body, because it sits all around and you kind of got to heave it round all the time to twist it, which is a bit of a pain. So I shouted myself some of the little Knit Pro, which are my favourite needles, the Knit Pro Addies. I love them. They just work well for me. But I've only got the 4-inch ones, and of course when you put those on the short one, they're still too long and it sticks out, etc. So that's been been quite good to knit with, learning those two things, the Magic Loop and the 9-inch circulars, which I prefer at the moment. So that's my knitting and my acquisitions. The only other thing is podcasts. Because I went on a yarn dyeing workshop oh gosh, that was a while ago now, maybe 3 months ago, and I've been really chomping at the bit to put my skills into practice really, and dye some yarn. But again, I'm scared if I dye some yarn, I'll want to knit it, and then I'll drop what I'm doing. I've got all of the stuff there, the dye and the wool all sitting there, and I figured, well, there's no hurry. I've kept the notes and everything, so what I've been doing is watching some podcasts on dyeing yarn just to give me some ideas and stuff. I don't want to become. My concern is that I will only be dyeing enough for one cardigan, or maybe for a friend or something. I but I might get addicted because I've got this addictive nature when it comes to things like crafts. And then I'll have all this wool that I've dyed, and I just won't have time to knit it. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but I'm looking forward to putting my new skill into practice. So I've been watching, one of the podcasts I've really enjoyed is called Dyepot, Dyepot, and she does what she calls chem knit tutorials, and she's quite good. She's really bright and lively, and she does lots and lots and lots of tutorials. I think she's done over 300 podcasts, so she's it goes, the flow's nice and it's easy to watch. She's bright and bubbly, and she's really quite good at explaining. So she does tests as well, like the other day she did tests on 3 different skeins of wool, so 3 different processes on how to do speckled yarn, and she was explaining each one through. So if you're interested in learning a bit more about dyeing, well, that is a podcast that I would recommend, and again, it's called Dyepot, Dyepot, and it's really great. I highly recommend it. So I've been watching all my other favourite podcasts as well, and it's because I've had all these health issues. Podcasts has been, really good. And the winter has started coming in, so it gets dark really quickly now, 6 o'clock, and it's really dark and cold. So, you close in, you start knitting, and yeah. Anyway, that's my podcast for today. Again, I hope you enjoy Anzac Day, and hold some remembrance for the men that served and women that served in the war or wars. And also, I hope you've enjoyed my podcast for the day. I've had such a constructive morning. I've been out in the garden. I've planted Brussels sprouts and leeks, and my garden's all ready to go for some winter stock. I've got a piece of pork in the crock pot. The vacuuming's done. The house is clean, and I'm going to sit down and knit, guys. I'm going to watch some podcasts and sit down and knit. So, yeah, goodbye for now, and we'll see you next time.